an infra solutions in IBM Kyndryl. But before that, let me share with you my journey on my career. So I started as an IT operator, and then I become an administrator, and now I'm working as a solutions architect. I've spent majority of my entire career working in telecommunications industry. So the topic that I'm about to discuss is about the migration, my journey actually towards the migration of our system from on-prem cloud to AWS. Maybe just to give you some context with regard to the evolutions of infrastructure, we know that in the old times, we started using the traditional, which is fully dedicated physical hardware. There are some pros and cons of using the traditional, but I think the main pain point is that it is too expensive, and there are a lot of waste in terms of using the resources because the capacity is not being fully maximized. And then those issues are actually slowly being addressed when the server virtualization started. So that's the time that the cloud was introduced. We have the on-prem cloud, which is the private cloud. We have the public cloud and the hybrid cloud. So on-prem cloud, which is popularly known as private cloud by definition, it simply means that the infrastructure was built within the premise of the company or organization. So the company or organization is has the full control of the infrastructure in terms of the management, the maintenance, the security, the network, which makes it expensive. So there's a part there that that the issue regarding the wasting of resources has been addressed. However, the part of the cost is still expensive in terms of maintaining and managing it. So here comes the public cloud. Public cloud, by definition, simply means that the infrastructure is hosted in the cloud provider like AWS, we have Azure, Google Cloud, IBM Cloud, and many others. Before actually, the customers are scared when they put or when they plan to put the infrastructure to the public cloud because there's some security risk. But now, as I can see it, even the big companies are actually moving on to the AWS. So, well, it has been one of my projects before, but still up to now, I'm still doing it actually. I'm still involved with the similar requirement, which is migration to the AWS. And then here comes this hybrid cloud. This is actually a combination of the private and the public. Still, big companies prefer to use the hybrid cloud. They still have private and public because they prefer to use multi-cloud technology solutions, and because of some security compliance which they need to follow, they still want to have they still have this portion of their systems which will be retained in the private cloud, and the other systems which they can transfer to cloud platforms like AWS. Okay, so sorry for that long introduction, but since I've already given you some context about the infrastructure, the evolution of the infrastructure, then the topic which I'm about to tell you is regarding the migration from the on-prem to AWS, the challenges and learnings. Okay. Okay, so the story that I'm about to tell you actually happens like 2 years ago. So just to give you a background of before I become a part of IBM, I become part of a company which provides solution related to like workforce management, inventory management, and ticketing management. So those are the systems. We support those systems, and those systems are actually installed in the private cloud of our client. So there's a requirement there that we need to migrate our systems from the on-prem cloud to AWS. Maybe you will ask me, what are the reasons why an organization or company needs to migrate their systems to to cloud platforms like AWS. I can give you three reasons. The first, sorry. Okay, so the first reason I think is if the existing environment is already failing. For example, you have an on-prem cloud and it has been running like for several years. However, the organization didn't um, perform some upgrades or transformation to the existing environment, and the systems which are hosted in the on-prem or private cloud are already failing because of some performance degradation. The hardware are already failing, which are unrecoverable. So maybe from that reason, I think that it's about time for you to plan migration from your existing environment to AWS or other cloud platforms. The second reason is if there's a capacity limitation. The best example for this one is actually big data, because as the traffic grows, and the capacity can no longer support that growth in terms of your data, then from that, actually, you can already plan for migrations from your existing environment to a cloud platform like AWS, which has more capacity. And the last part, I think, is because of the management direction. There are cases wherein the company wants to have some transformations in terms of the infrastructure. So the direction is that all systems or portions of their systems will be migrated to cloud platform like AWS. So there's no chance for you to say no. You have to follow that direction. So those are I think those are a few things or few reasons I can say that yes, you can plan for migration to AWS or any cloud platform. And maybe you can ask me why AWS? Why not Azure? Why not Google? Why not IBM? If you're part of a decision maker in the organization, there are actually certain criteria which you follow before you decide for the right product or solutions that will fit into the requirements. So mostly, I can give you some, but the first thing or the first criteria which I can provide to you is the stability of the company. When you're deciding for a solution, you also need to know what's the financial status of the company, the revenue, even the revenue, and the current customers, and what type of customers do they have. So that's the first criteria. The second is the implementation, the number of implementations on different use cases on different parts of the world. So that's another thing that you might use when deciding for the solution. The third item is the security compliance. That's a critical part when it comes to deciding what solution to be selected. Another is the wide variety of services it can offer to the customer. So we believe that AWS has several services supported, like I think it's more than 200 services. So that's a plus factor for them. Also the cost saving. So if the product offers significant amount of discounts, so that's a plus factor that you will choose in terms of winning the bidding process. So I believe that AWS AWS actually is on top of those criteria which I have mentioned. So that's okay. So going back to the requirement, so basically the requirement is just to migrate systems from on-prem cloud to AWS. But during the planning phase, there are actually items which you need to consider. So I have here several items. The first one is the architecture. We know that when the system is into on-prem, there's already an architecture, but you know that it's also an opportunity for you to improve the architecture, even though you already have the existing, but you can actually propose a new architecture that can improve the system. Like for example, because we know that AWS has several resources, several capacities, and it's an opportunity for you to build the architecture having an HA, failover, and backup. So it's an opportunity, and you just need to back up it with advantages of putting that new architecture, because at the end of the day, it will be client who will approve your new architecture. Okay. The next is the migration strategy. So actually, on this part, it depends on your timeline. If you have some short timelines, then I think I would suggest to make use of services available in AWS that supports the migration. On our part kasi, when we plan for the strategy, we actually do it from scratch. So we build the server, we provision the instances, and then we install the OS, and then we install the applications, and then we do some configuration. So that's what we do. There are some pros and cons of doing that, because the pros is that we know that the applications will run because it comes from a clean environment. However, the cons in that is that it will take time for you to build the environment, because you will build it from scratch. So that's the cons. But if you have, as I mentioned, if you have some short timelines, then I would recommend to utilize the services available for the AWS in terms of the migration. So we have here the SMS, which is service migration service. You have the data sync, you have the database migration service. So those things you can explore on how you can use that in the migration strategy. Okay. The third item is the security compliance. So since these are new instances in a new environment, which is AWS Cloud, then you have to comply also. We need to undergo compliance for the security, like BA scanning, auditing, and so on and so forth. So we also have to undergo with that process. And that's also critical before we do the go live. The next is the connectivity requirements. Okay, so our system is actually available in desktop and mobile. So we have to consider also how will the end users connect to the AWS. What will be the kind of connectivity? But in this case, since the corporate has its own VPN, then we'll stick to use the corporate VPN when it comes to connecting, when it comes to the end users connecting to the new environment. But it is actually, it's just one. We also have to consider the connectivity of our IT administrators or operators that will maintain and manage the servers. So how these people will connect to the new environment, and these people is not from that, is not under the client, but also a vendor. So we have to consider that also. So that's a different kind of connections. The next is the integration to the external systems. So our systems are integrated to different systems as well, like asset inventory. We have the SMTP and the LDAP. So those things needs to be, if it's integrated to the existing environment, then it should be integrated, or there should be a connectivity needs to be established to the new environment. So that's the thing that need to consider as well. Integration to the monitoring tools. We know that AWS has its own monitoring tool, which is CloudWatch. They also have CloudTrail, but we manage actually to we stick to the monitoring tools that we have. So the requirement is still to connect our system to the existing monitoring tool, and not to use the existing tool that the AWS offers. Yeah, I think that it's because it's central. The monitoring tool is centralized, and there are a lot of things that it can see as compared to what CloudWatch can offer. CloudWatch is more of like basic metrics, but in terms of monitoring each component installed in that application, I think that the centralized monitoring tool that we have can fit to that requirement. Okay. Next is the regression or functionality testing. So on this part, actually, this is the critical part, by the way, because when you migrate your systems from on-prem or from any other environment to AWS, it's not just you're building the infrastructure. You also need to ensure that the application will run smoothly, will run as expected, and will run properly. So that's the purpose of the regression and functionality testing. And this is the part that will take more time, because if there are some bugs or if there are some issues encountered during the testing, then we need to troubleshoot, and we need to fix that issue before it will go live to the new environment. That's the thing. And then of course, once we get the certification, then it means that the go live or the deployment to the production will proceed. Okay, and the last part is the backup strategy. Of course, in AWS, you have lots of resources, and it's about time, or it's an opportunity also to plan for the backup strategy, especially for your database and the application configurations. Yeah. Okay. I think the QA will be on the last part. Okay. So let me hope you're not being bored with my presentation. So the next is the architecture. So this is simply this is just a high level, but just to visualize on what we did on this project. So we have here our system, which is under the on-prem cloud, and then you have here the big arrow. This means that the requirement that this system from the on-prem will be migrated to the AWS cloud. And we also need, you have here the green lines, which means that these are existing, and the broken lines in red are the connectivities which needs to be established once you migrate the system to the AWS cloud. So here you have the end users I've mentioned. We have desktop user and the mobile user. So those are connected to the system in the on-prem, and then once you go live, sorry, the arrow here is incorrect, but the end user should connect to the new environment in AWS. And then you have here integrations to other systems like asset and inventory, SMTP, and LDAP. By the way, AWS, there are available AWS services similar to the SMTP, like SNS or notification service. Also, AWS has its own service similar to the LDAP or Active Directory, but it's always it's not necessary that you have to use those services. It depends on what will be the agreements or contract with your client. But if the client will stick to their corporate SMTP and LDAP, then that's the thing that we as vendor need to follow. Yeah. So same thing with the monitoring tools. We know that AWS has its own monitoring tools, but we managed to make use of their centralized monitoring tool. So we have here a tool for the server monitoring and logging. Okay. Okay. So here comes the challenges. Okay. So these are the challenges that we encounter along the way. Number one is the transfer of files from on-prem to S3. Okay. So actually we have two options here. Make use of the services available in AWS or make use of the native tool. But we actually selected, or we choose to, we choose the native tool, which is rsync. So the way we connect to the server is using the Bastion server. Bastion, by the way, is like a jump server. So it helps you connect to the private network of of AWS. So it will help you connect to the servers in the private cloud, in the VPC of AWS cloud. So that's how we connect to the Bastion. So we just use our sync when we send the files to S3. So there's a catch in this when it comes to the to making a decision on what tools needs to be used. It so happened that the files is just small. It's in gigabytes. But I would suggest if the files are in terabytes, I would suggest to make use of the tools available in AWS like DataSync, because that will save lots of your time. If you have some limited time, and if you are catching your timeline, then better to utilize what services are available in the AWS. So yeah, so that's my piece of advice. Okay, so next is the remote access to the server for the installation and configuration. So as I mentioned, the way we actually propose to make use of the site-to-site VPN, but it was not approved by the client. So what we use is Bastion server, it's like a jump server. Okay, access to the end users. I think I've mentioned this already. The challenge there actually is because there are a lot of options, but we have to decide what options needs to be used. So that's the challenge that we face during that time. Okay, so access to the end user. So I've mentioned we end up using the corporate VPN of our client. Establish new connectivity to the external systems. On this part, actually, is the understanding of your traffic flow. Remember that we have traffic flow, like if it's unilateral, bilateral, what is this traffic flow? Where will it come from, and where will it end? Is the what particular ports are required to be open? So those things. Remember that in AWS, when it comes to allowing the traffic, it will be different as compared to the on-prem cloud. On-prem cloud has its network appliances and has its own firewall appliances. So in terms of restricting or limiting the traffic in on-prem cloud, that is where you execute your commands. But in AWS, it's more of when you control the traffic or the restrictions of your traffic, that will happen in the security groups, in the NACL. So those things. When it is your first time to be engaged in AWS. Okay, so hello, Shell.
Yes, Ivy.
Can I still continue or?
Yeah.
Okay,
so.
sorry.
I think you're on your almost done, right? You're on the fourth slide already.
Yeah. Maybe I can go through the last part. So the learnings. This part is the last part of my presentation. So the learnings is that, as I mentioned, you have to leverage the tools available in terms of the migration strategy as much as possible. The only I think the only challenge is the understanding of the tools available, because if it's your first time to encounter AWS and you're not expert, or you doesn't have any knowledge of using the tool, then you need to have at least the basic of what services are available and how to use those. So, and the second is, as mentioned earlier, migration to AWS is also an opportunity for you to improve the architecture. Not just transfer it to another cloud, but also to improve the architecture. And also, it's recommended to consult AWS partner for the best practices. If you are not that confident on your new design or new architecture, then it's good if you have to consult with your AWS partner on what's best practices and what's the best tool to use that will help your migration process. And yeah, the last part is about the tracker and the checklist, which are very critical in the migration. But I'll end up my presentation by the reasons, because earlier I mentioned about the reasons why an organization needs to migrate. I'll give you reasons why a company organizations will not require to migrate the AWS. The first one is the compliance on the national security policy. Like in Indonesia, there's a security policy that that the facility should be within their country. So when you put an infrastructure, it should be in Indonesia. So AWS is not fitted for that, because I believe AWS region for Indonesia is still in progress, and I think it will be available by next year or end of this year. So but now it's not available. I think Alibaba Cloud has the region in Indonesia, and that fits the requirement. Next is the compliance of the compliance with the company security policy. As I mentioned, there are the big companies like in bank industry, they are still they're still retaining their critical systems in their private cloud, like like those systems running in mainframe. They don't want, because of compliance on their company's policy, security policy. They are not they don't have options to migrate those critical systems to the cloud, so they stick to their private cloud. So there are data that can be migrated to AWS or any cloud platforms, but there are systems which will retain on the private cloud. And the last is services that are not yet supported by AWS. Though AWS has its more than 200 services, but I don't think that all services are already covered or all industry are already covered by the AWS. One good example is the telco devices. I've become part of a project where the requirement is a cloud platform that will support telco devices. Unfortunately, AWS can provide that solution. There's, I think, Huawei Cloud is starting to develop infra for the telco, but I'm not sure what's the plan for AWS. Maybe in the future. So yeah, that's it. If there's any questions, maybe I think on the last part you can give.
Thank you so much, Ivy. Yes, we do have a question for you, but we'll reserve it later.
Okay.
And, please stand by, and everyone, please do not hesitate to ask questions. You know, there's one very good feedback, Ivy, with regards to your talk. Kay mentioned that she learned a lot just in a few minutes. So thank you very much for your talk. And for the rest, you know, if you have questions, you can actually ping it on the Q&A chat box, or you can raise your hand later, and then we can let you or enable your account to speak or talk. All right. Thank you very much, Ivy. Very, very helpful. I do have some questions for you as well, but I'll reserve it for later. And, okay. So we have two more interesting speakers. Share my screen. Okay. All right. For our next speaker, we have Miss Wendy Wong. Wendy is a data scientist, senior data analyst, business analyst, and data engineer. She's also an AWS Community Builder and Analytics Mentor with a demonstrated track record delivering strong results in customer success, digital projects, and senior leadership. Wendy worked across multiple industries in disruptive market environments, strong values-based innovative leader with differentiation in consumer, people-led business transformation and digital growth. Wendy is currently building a cloud data warehouse in Amazon Redshift and building conversational AI capability with NLP using Chatbox and AWS Transcribe. Wendy has provided data science consulting at the Australian Taxation Office, PwC Australia, JobGetter, and Lendlease. Most recently, Wendy was a data scientist for the AR startup Eliza and also consulted at the University of Technology Sydney in Smart Cities. Wendy graduated with a Master's of Data Science and Innovation degree from the University of Technology Sydney with distinction average and graduation certificate in editing and publishing. Wendy is honored to be an AWS Community Builder in the specialty area of data. Wendy is passionate about technology and is a former Stanford University Women in Data Science Sydney Ambassador in 2018 and 2020, and a Women in Big Data Sydney chapter lead. She also recently mentored and was a data analytics instructor in Python programming at Academy 11. Wendy is passionate about conversational AI and natural language understanding in public sector. Without further ado, let's all welcome Wendy. Thank you very much for gracing us tonight, Wendy.
Thanks, Shell. Thanks for introducing me. And what a fabulous talk from Ivy before. And I learned so much about the migration strategy. Yeah, I'm still on a journey to learn about cloud, so fairly new, but I'll just share my screen and just walk you through what we're doing in the public sector at the moment. And oops. So good evening, everyone from Sydney. Just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how we're on a journey to build a cloud data warehouse in Amazon Redshift. And also we're building conversational AI capability as well in the state government. So I'm just going to walk you through some of the challenges within the public sector as well. So it's not as easy to get approval and sign off like working for a startup or in consulting as well. And I'll just introduce a little bit of background of me. So I could say I'm a bit of a jack of all trades. So at the moment, working as a business analyst in government, but also doing a little bit of data science as well for different stakeholders. So building predictive capability for email campaigns, and then also building a database and working with a data engineer. So being fully engaged in hands-on labs. So my role is multifaceted at the moment. Just wanted to tell you a little about my work. So Service New South Wales, we're part of the Department of Customer Service. It's one of the most important government agencies in New South Wales. So we link with transport, we look after COVID-19 testing, we look after all of the Sydney recovery, all the international travellers and the vaccination and COVID check-in, everything travel. So we're one-stop shopping government. And we look after 4.8 million citizens in New South Wales. So anything that's critical, we manage within our contact centre. And then we also have physical centres as well, where our citizens can ask for help regarding anything. So we need to be on top, and we provide customer experience as well. So we're sort of like the Google of government. We're still on a journey in technology. We're not that advanced because government data is really secure. But at the moment in my department, we're part of the service delivery team. So we work closely with the contact center, and there's a lot of data at the moment, and we're trying to move our contact center data into Genesis Cloud. And we actually, with our evaluators, they monitor all the calls to provide excellent customer experience to all of our customers. And that's on a monthly basis. So we've got terabytes of data. We've got historical data, everything's maintained in Excel spreadsheets. We don't really have good databases, but then we also need to ensure that there's no data leakage and we don't breach any customer privacy as well. And we also have customer experience surveys, which are maintained on Microsoft Forms. And we also have call recordings on a system called SpeechMiner. So we're on our early journey to migrate some of our data into AWS, as well as using a hybrid cloud solution to integrate that with Genesis Cloud. And so we're working, so it's a really slow process. Since August, we've been trying to build a business use case to find out, what can we do to build our own cloud data warehouse? And the first reason is, why do we need to build a cloud data warehouse when we have our own data warehouse team? So we have our own data warehouse team, but as a team, we can't add data to the data warehouse. So that's a little bit problematic for us because we want to do some real-time reports. We have ad hoc requests, and we want to deliver to the business, and we want to react to any ministerial announcements as well, from the Minister of Customer Service, and any COVID news that changes from the Premier. We want to act quickly on that. So we need to build our own data warehouse as well. So therefore, we've got two solutions. We want to combine our department unit data as well as operational data. So we've got two data lakes that we're building. The first one is the department data lake that we're building, and just wanted to describe some of the data. So the reason why we're taking what we would have heard is a lake house approach. So a lake house approach is fairly new to AWS. It describes Amazon Redshift, and it is really more flexible than your traditional data warehouse. It's quicker, you can scale up and down. It's cost effective as well. And the beauty of that is you can combine unstructured data and structured data. So you can still maintain your spreadsheets, store it in the cloud. And then later on, we want to also include call transcriptions as well, call recordings from the contact center. So that's a lot of audio as well. And we also have a lot of mobile app data. So we're building a chatbot. So all the customer notification, we want to understand how the chatbot is performing, and other scripts that the script writers are writing. Is it really reaching our customers? Is it making a difference in terms of customer experience and notification? So that's later down the track in our data maturity. But in our first use case, we want to just push like CSV files into Redshift, build a proper data warehouse for our team. And we want to use Redshift to help us do that. And then we want to use analytical tools and link Tableau and Power BI as well to build fancy dashboards. And then we also want to have a look at the linkage between Amazon Redshift with QuickSight to build internal dashboards as well and help us answer questions, with the intelligence as well with natural language processing. So at the moment, we can't really connect Amazon Redshift to Tableau. We need a connector. And we have a business intelligence manager who owns the server. So we need port details, username, and we're speaking to a data engineer to speak to the data warehouse manager to actually link up those details. But as of yesterday, we've built our first cluster, and I'll just discuss a little bit more about that later as well. So that's the department data. And then secondly, as mentioned, we've got our own data lake that we're building with the whole department of customer service, which is operational data. So that's bigger than us. And we also have a S3 bucket. So we've got other data, which is coming from other CRMs like Siebel and Lara, and we're using another consultancy to help us build this operational data lake. They're going to use Athena to make SQL queries, and they're also going to build Lambda functions as well with different buckets. And then we're using Snowflake to help us with the ETL as well, because there's more mature data for customer behavior. And we're also going to take a slice of that data and then link that with our business unit data as well. Oops, sorry, I don't know. Oops, I'm still showing my screen. And then secondly, so going back to our first use case with the department data, the reason why we chose Amazon Redshift is it allows us to quickly scale up and build, test and fail, and learn from that as well. So initially it was just getting approval, sign off to ensure that there's no customer data leakage in government, and just ensuring that we can protect customers' information due to PII. And then as of yesterday, we've built our first cluster with one leader node. And then later on, we want to introduce other nodes so that we can share other data sources that we have. So our first use case is transactional data, which is core evaluations. And then we're also going to link that with customer surveys with perhaps like another node. And the challenges that we've had so far. So, you know, we've ingested data from the data source, we've put it in the S3 bucket, and we've built Amazon Redshift. And then later on, we wish to query that data from like Tableau or Power BI, but we're not at that stage yet. So some of the challenges we had was in terms of, we've got like IAM roles for business analysts, and the data engineer working with us, he doesn't actually have access to our Active Directory. So we're just helping him get access to that so that he could actually access our S3 bucket. And then also, we have problems with the correct data type. We just had to correct that when we built the scripts within Amazon Redshift to create our tables. And we don't have access to specific role permissions in Amazon QuickSight to perform really quick dashboards. So that's what we want to refer to later on, and also link that to a Tableau connector and link Redshift to the Power BI connector as well through Microsoft, so that we could actually just extract data. It will just go into the data warehouse, it will do some ETL, it will transform, and we can produce scheduled reporting each month as well, because we do a lot of performance reporting at the moment. And then also, once our data is more mature, our second use case will be just as we're going back to, you know, talking about, you know, two clouds that we have. So we also have the Genesis. So we have all of our core recordings in this new Genesis cloud. So we want to actually switch on speech to text and also capture call recordings and look at the performance of our contact center agents, and also provide coaching as well. And we also want to be able to score that data. And then there's a connector with Genesis Cloud and S3 bucket in Amazon. So we want to be able to quickly extract information and do some machine learning later on, like topic modeling. So just going back to the second use case, eventually there's a new API that was released in August. It's called Amazon Transcribe Call Analytics API. It's a really exciting API for natural language processing. If you haven't watched the recording, feel free to go on the Amazon website and have a look at that. So it allows us in government to be able to extract customer sentiment through this API, to be able to detect the customer's emotions, extract certain phrases as well. Because at the moment we have to label all of our data in Excel, and it's a very manual and laborious process. And we also, this Amazon Transcribe Call Analytics API allows us to redact customer sensitive information. So there are tags, and it categorizes different phrases as well, just to tell us, you know, what the topics are, what the alerts are for our call evaluators, how can they provide coaching to the agents for their portfolios. So that's really helpful. So we're not quite at that stage yet, but we want to be able to utilize speech to text later on. So Amazon Transcribe can help us do that. And I'm just going to walk through just a quick demo of, you know, how we built our Amazon Redshift cluster. So there's a tutorial on the website, on the Amazon website, and also, or either on the Quick Labs as well. You can have a look at that. But some of the challenges in building a Redshift cluster in government, it wasn't the tutorial, it was just having access to the right permissions. For my role as a business analyst, I don't have the same permissions as a data engineer. So if you were building a Redshift cluster, do speak to your cloud platform team to check your IAM role or your IAM user group. So to essentially create a Redshift cluster, we go into Amazon and then go into services. So you create your S3 bucket and then you put in the data that you wish to analyze. And then you go into Amazon Redshift. And then after you go into Redshift, go to create cluster and then just follow the steps, you'll need to click on production. And after you go to production, you need to ensure that your cloud platform team provides you with configuration details for your cluster. So the node type, the size that you'll use, and you'll need to decide how many nodes you'll use. So some of the data will be partitioned. So you can start small, you can use one node and then increase it to 2. And then also your platform team who create the root user details, they'll also need to provide you with the database configuration details like username and password. And then also, once you get to the stage where you enter those configuration of cluster details, you'll need to create the cluster permissions. So ensure that your platform team provide you with the available IAM roles that relate to Redshift and not your typical IAM role. So it's a specific one. And then you need to ensure that when you get to the stage, network security, that you'll be allocated the correct security group. And then after that, once you have those details, you should be able to create your first cluster. And you can see that the first cluster is created under this section namespace. And then you'll have all the details regarding the property details of the cluster and the endpoint as well, the number of nodes and the node type. And you can also, if you need to change details, you can actually change the node type to something larger. And then after that, you'll proceed to the section. You can either go to query cluster, there'll be a section to connect to database. So you can connect to create Redshift database or even connect to another one like a Postgres database as well. You'll need to ensure that your cloud platform team provide you with username, password, the database name, and most importantly, the port number, because once your cluster is created, the port number can't change. And they'll provide you with the SSL details as well. And then the really exciting thing is once your Redshift cluster is created, you can actually go into the Amazon Redshift database developer guide. You can download it and you can just copy the commands to create your first table. So that's really useful. A lot of resources under this guide. And yeah, that's it. And yeah, and if you have any questions, please let me know. Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Wendy. That's a very, very interesting talk. You even included the short demo as well. So we'll save up for Wendy's, for your questions for Wendy rather. So please stay tuned. We'll also be raffling off an AWS BuildHers Plus t-shirt and another item. So stay till the end of the meetup, so you'll have a chance to win those cool stuff, right? So we'll proceed to our third speaker. All right. So for our third, yes.
Hopefully you can hear me and see me. Sorry for interrupting. Go ahead.
No problem, no problem. For our third speaker, we have Ms. Louise Fitzpatrick Hayes. Louise is an Alexa app builder. She's an exuberant AWS Node.js full stack programmer, 3 years AWS dev. For 3 years rather. And as an AWS dev, it's 5 years web dev experience. She's into React.js and modern frameworks as well. Another AWS Community Builder, AWS certified, and as I mentioned earlier, she's an Alexa app dev builder. She also won a Cloud Guru scholarship via WomenWhoCode. She moved to the States in 2016 from Ireland, but I think she's in Ireland right now. And she even joined us, even if she's jet lagged. So thank you very much, Louise. So she's also a UNH coding bootcamp grad. She has a degree in computer science. She loves hackathons, tech conferences, teaching girls can code. She also won a Moms Can Code hackathon with an Imposter Syndrome React app. She's a WomenWhoCode and Moms Can Code advocate. and she's been in and out of tech for many years. She also worked as a naturopath for a few years in between. She has 4 boys ages 18 to 8, and she loves to run every day and eat healthy food. So she's very much interested in tech. Without further ado, we have Louise Fitzpatrick Hayes for our last session tonight, and she'll talk about how to build an Alexa app for imposter syndrome and in order to beat imposter syndrome. So take it away, Louise. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And also thank you to Ivy and Wendy. I'm learning so much here, absolutely. I have no experience with migrations. All of my work is based on AWS Cloud, so it's fascinating to see the challenges and the learnings. If we ever need that, it's great to have somewhere to base it off. And from Wendy's point of view, I'm really interested in AI. I do not work in AI every day. My AI passion is more for fun and after hours. We have an AI aspect to the product that I work on in work. However, my focus is mainly on the coding of the other services. So for me, I'm on my AI journey, quite new to ML. I'm learning ML, and I've been accepted into the AWS Builder community as an ML group member. So I'm really excited. I'm studying, learning. So maybe Wendy and I should hook up sometime to explore more about, AI technology and conversations. As you already said, I have a degree from many years ago. Everything has changed since then, but I've always been in technology and worked for companies like Hewlett Packard, SAP, pivoted a few times in my career, ran my own business for many years as a website developer, missed the coding aspect and the team, so wanted to get back into a company environment. Kicked off my my pivot again and when I came over to America with a boot camp, which was amazing to network and learn the latest and greatest. I now work for WorkGrid, which is a Liberty Mutual endeavor. We build a software product for Liberty Mutual, and we also offer it to other companies as well. So it's almost like a technical company that Liberty Mutual have built. And I am so passionate about teaching girls to code, women to code, mentoring, and really trying to pass on any knowledge I have and promote women in technology, because I feel like there is such a gap there. I do hackathons and encourage my company to run hackathons, and I always see myself as a code newbie. I do have a podcast with fellow mom coders who try and target newbies and encourage them. And it's a little bit about life and coding with children and all of that. This is the company I work for called WorkGrid. It does have a chatbot, which is not something I work on every day, but it's an employee digital experience app that tries to help make an employee's day easier by linking into many large third-party systems, but it's making it easier for the employee to respond to notifications, and it's built on the smart notification technology, all based on AWS. Today's talk is, I am very passionate about technology and well-being, and I'm also interested in imposter syndrome. And I feel like the more we share about it, the more we can help others. I think if I wasn't a technologist, I would be some kind of psychologist, counselor, whatever. I've always been interested in mental health. So I will talk about imposter syndrome and what it is, but I will also talk about Alexa and Lambda, and show you how building an Alexa app for imposter syndrome really helped my imposter syndrome. And I'll hopefully demo some of the things if we have time. Let me know if we run out. Have you ever suffered from debilitating self-doubt, feelings of inadequacy, a fear of failure at work? Have you ever felt like you were a fraud and at any moment you'll be found out or exposed for being incompetent, underqualified for your position? Then you have more than likely experienced a phenomenon known as imposter syndrome. So what is imposter syndrome? It's very prevalent among women, considered to be high achievers. Despite your significant achievements, you tend to have low self-confidence and feel incompetent. Difficulty accepting praise, reluctance to seize opportunities. So it can affect your work-life balance. It can affect your work in a huge way. And a reluctance to accept a project or a new assignment. You feel like you're just not ready. It can hold you back. A reluctance to highlight the contributions you've made to projects. You might be quiet about some of the work that you've done and just feel downplayed a bit. Procrastinating, sometimes immobilizing fear at times. And it can lead, strangely enough, to workaholism, where you overcompensate and you do extra hours and you work extra hard. You feel like you need to do more to keep up. 70% of people in studies admit to suffering from it. So it's interesting that it's not recognized as a medical issue, but it's definitely a lot of documentation about it now and studies coming out about it. So you know what it is now. How do we deal with it? What can we do to help? So obvious things like talking about it can really help, because if you name it, then you can help to reduce your stress levels around it, and also help others to talk about it to you. You know, having a good team. So make sure if you're in a work environment, a lot of the time, you may feel like you're the only kind of person who has children or who is female. A lot of the time we work in these environments where it's 80% male, or whatever the diversity that you feel like you're alone. Be careful that you choose a team that are going to support you and make you feel included. Being careful as well that the company has a strong diversity and inclusion attitude, that they are actively trying to address this gap and working to have a balance in the company overall and make people aware of people who come from all different walks of life. Education, so learning about it and teaching others, whether it's through talks or just through sharing links or on your social platform, that can really help. You know, coming together with other networks and feeling like you're not the only one, that can really help others. I would be interested at the end to see if anyone has openly discussed it before, or whether they feel like they have struggled with it in the past, and what they've used to overcome it. Mentorship helps by helping somebody else, not just by receiving help. You can really help your own imposter syndrome because you get this great feedback that you're appreciated and that you have something to bring to the table. You know, focus on your accomplishments, try and be honest about it, keep a track on a monthly basis of what you've done, because you tend to downplay and only focus on the feedback that is showing that you need to improve, rather than the things you've done well. Challenge your thinking. So don't take what your thoughts are saying as true. Sometimes you have to say, actually, I'm going to expect that I'm doing very well here, and I'm going to jump onto this new challenge because I know I can do it well. So that's a little bit about dealing with it. I would also add to that, taking on a challenge that you think you can't do, because when you do it and you do it well and you say to people, I'm a little nervous and I'm going to need some help, but please help me, it can really boost your confidence. So to that end, we come to the technical side of the talk. Really, it's just a simple Alexa app that anyone can build with very little experience, and you can learn as much or as little about the AI technology behind it on the way as you like. And as we know, AWS provides a lot of blueprints and templates and tutorials, and here we can do something very quickly, hopefully. Just to give you a bit of background in case you're unfamiliar. So what is Alexa? It's similar to Apple's our AI, where the iPhone is the hardware, Siri is the voice service. It's AWS's voice AI technology. The Echo was the hardware, and the Alexa is the voice service. And just to explain what is happening behind the scenes a little bit, in a typical Alexa app situation, the user in point number 1 here would ask Echo, open Real-Up fact. For example, with the app that I made called Real-Up, which was to help with motivational quotes for somebody suffering from imposter syndrome. This is called an utterance. It's an intention of what the user is using to trigger your app. And on step 2 here, you see this invokes the Alexa service custom skill that you have built. Alexa uses NLU, I know Wendy talked about that, natural language understanding, to try and understand the user's intention. It uses speech to text under the hood, all for you, and speech recognition. It then sends, on point number 3 there, the event, which is called an intent, to the Lambda. This triggers the Lambda. The Lambda is, I would say, the backend to the voice UI, which is the UI. So we're familiar with websites as a UI. Think of Alexa as another type of user interface. Lambda responds with effect, a motivational quote, for example, to Alexa in step 4. And step 5 would be Alexa sends this as an audio text to speech to the Echo device. So there's a lot of clever things going on under the hood with Alexa. Think of it as a virtual assistant developed by Amazon for its Echo, an Echo Dot computing device. We all know what it is, but sometimes I have different people and different talks, and they are quite new to the AWS arena. And you know, it can cost anything from $50 to $200. Yeah. And this is a little bit more in depth of what's going on under the hood. Can everybody still hear me okay? Yeah, I just heard something there. Yep. Okay.
So good, thank you.
Yep, good. This is just showing a little bit more about if you were to, in our simple demo, it is simply fetching hard-coded data to show how a beginner could learn to use an Alexa app. An array of a JSON object of motivational quotes. But let's say you wanted to fetch a third-party data like a weather or a temperature, an IoT device. This is just showing you how you can expand that Lambda to fetch from that third party using a HTTP request, and then send that back. You know, a user could say, hey, what's the weather? What's the temperature and humidity? So you can, once you have that set up, you can expand your Lambda. It can store information in a database on AWS, just to show you the capabilities. And we also will be, so Alexa has a lot going on the scenes, under the scenes. This is just to show you a very simple snapshot. And, you know, I would not be an expert in any of this. And a lot of it you get for free. So you don't need to understand it too well, as long as you understand the basic, clever, built-in services behind what you get with Alexa. Automatic speech recognition, natural language understanding, text-to-speech, and your Lambda is set up with an Alexa as its trigger. And I'm talking a lot about Lambda. So I think it would be helpful just to give you a snapshot again of these very technical diagrams are quite scary, but I always think it just goes to show you, you know, Lambda is such a flexible tool that AWS provide to us. It allows us to build our code on the cloud very easily as developers, using infrastructure as code, and it takes away the burden of, you know, maintaining servers. So as we had a talk earlier about on-prem, this is very much on the cloud, and this is why you move to the cloud. It gives you a lot of developer experience improvements when you are using Lambda. Not every project or code base suits it, because it is all about small microservices that are individually decoupled and working separately, but it gives you robustness as well. So I won't go into too much detail on the Lambda. I just wanted to show you kind of a 20-foot view of a situation where Lambda could be behind the scenes. And as you can see here, the user could make a request and through Route 53 and CloudFront and an API gateway, eventually could hit a Lambda which fetches database information or sends emails with the SES there, or stores information on S3. And so Lambda is so quick and I suppose cheap as well. I think it's free for the first 1 million requests. So the free tier is exciting for anyone exploring and trying to set up POCs or just learn. So I suppose when we're creating an Alexa skill, we start with our Lambda. Think of the Lambda as the skill service part. We will try and jump into the AWS Management Console now, and I'll show you quickly where you would set that up, and for anyone who isn't familiar. And we will simply just go over, there's a how to create a Lambda using the AWS template for Alexa. And it comes all with the code ready made, and then we just have to tweak a few things very quickly. So I will try and show you the demo part of this now very quickly, and we'll come back to show you the Alexa shortly. And hopefully you can carry on seeing my screen. So here we have the AWS Management. Can you see all this? The AWS Management Console? Hopefully you can. And we quickly choose the Lambda here. And I'm just going to try and show you how easy it is to create the kind of function that I'm talking about here. The main thing to do is be aware that we are creating templates and blueprints, and that how fast it is to do this yourself if you haven't ever played around with it. So I know this is recorded, so don't worry about following it too much now. And I know that sometimes when you're doing a live demo, it just takes too long, but I just want to try and show you a few little quick things. I have it set up already, but I'm hoping just to show you how a few clicks here and there get you set up with your Lambda. So I've just chosen to browse the serverless app repo. And I wanted to show you that I'm going to pick this Alexa skills kit node fact set, because it's the type of Alexa. I want an Alexa trigger on my Lambda. I want it to be a skills app, and I want it to be a node because that's my language of choice. So this suits me perfect.
Sorry to interrupt you. We couldn't see your console. So what we can see right now is the slide. So maybe you can shift.
Oh, sorry. Thank you so much for telling me this. Oh my goodness. Okay.
We're so interested to see it. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Thank you for telling me. Thank you. Okay. So we're in here in the Lambda. I'm so glad you said that. Okay. We'll try and do this quickly. You click on your Lambda in the AWS Management Console, and this link here, you all know, possibly console, AWS, Amazon.com. You click on create function. You click on browse serverless app repo here. So I'm just building something that I know Amazon have given me to play around with, and a template. I can tweak the code if I want, but I just want to get this up and running really quick. So I'm choosing this template here. You can choose from all of these, right? But let's go for the Alexa one. I want this Lambda to trigger an Alexa skill. I want it to be a node, and I want it to be a fact skill, something really simple. I'm not looking for storage or third-party integration here. I'm just looking for a very simple implementation. The only thing I like to do here, so that I know which one it is I might say AWS Pug, I'll say 2, because I want to make sure we know which one is the one. And I'm just going to click on deploy here. I'll keep everything else the same. That might take a few minutes. When it's done, just for the sake of speed, this is what you get. It takes a few minutes, and this is a typical Lambda that I set up before for this demo. And as you can see, it has an Alexa skill as its trigger. And that means whenever, Alexa can ping this Lambda whenever it needs to do something. How we link them together is we copy the ARN here and we put it into our Alexa. And I'll show you how to do that shortly. This is where the code would live. So if we look at the code, pretty much the only thing I would usually change to this whole template is this English version for me, because I'm interested in the English version. I basically, you get this for free, but it's called SpaceFact, and I just modified all of these lines to say real up, because that's the name of my app that I want it to present to the user. And so I just changed a few lines here, and instead of giving the templates version of what it had here, which was purely just SpaceFact, I just put in some motivational quotes that really helped me feel better about my day. And as you can see, there's an array here, and Alexa will just randomly choose one of these every time the Alexa app is triggered. And so it's really quite simple. And the only other thing is you need to match your skill name so that it all works well for you. So that's basically the Lambda side. So if I then move on to the Alexa side, we can look here at our Alexa console. It is a different login, the developer.amazon.com. And for this, you will have to log in and register yourself. Once you do, like everything, it's free and everything like that, and you click on the Alexa option. You can have so much fun in here learning and watching tutorials. But for us, we want to create an Alexa skill in here, this option here. And then we're going to go and ignore all of this training for now, but you can see all the types of custom skills you can build. And they have help for all of them. I usually just go straight into the console here, and that is the quickest way to get to the developer console for anyone who's never used it. Again, I've already created a template in case in case AWS Live doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't. But just to show you how quickly it is again, let's try. We can create a skill. We can give it a name like AWS Pug to reel up. I don't usually change many of the settings. So all you have to do is say you want a custom app. So it's already selected. And you want to provision your own, because we've just created our own host. So remember I said earlier that the Lambda is like your back end. It's called in Alexa's world, it's called your host. So we're gonna host our own resource. You can just pick one from and let Alexa host it, and it gives you a nice benefit, which I'll show you in a little while, but it allows you to dynamically code in the Alexa console. For us, if we want to code and change our code, we have to go back to the Lambda console. So that's the major difference, but both are equally customizable. So I'm going to try and create the skill here, and that can take a few minutes. So at the very end of the creation section, you want to make sure you choose fact skill. And as you can see, you can have a lot of fun with all these other options, but let's just choose that and go. Now that can take a few minutes. So I'm going to try and show you the one I created earlier. And this is kind of what you end up getting. I'll just move this down a bit first, sorry. So here you have this is our developer console for Alexa, and you have all of these tabs here that you will learn, but the major one we're interested in is the building tab and the testing tab. So straight away, when that app is finished being built, you will be brought into this building tab, and it tells you what you have to do, which is amazing. So it says, hey, you need an invocation name. Enter the name that you want your user to say, hey, open ReelUp app, how to trigger your app. And then the other important thing is to add your endpoint here, which links it to your Lambda. And so if we go straight in here to our invocation name, you see I call this one Motivate AWS Pug. And that's literally all they mean by that. So if we go on to the next step, it says to create your endpoint. And here I copy the ARN from this step above here, copy ARN. You just put it in here. Now, be careful that you save your endpoint, and that way it doesn't get lost. Next, we go on to the interaction model, which is basically what Alexa needs for its schema to understand the utterance from the user, how they trigger this app, and the intent, what you think the user really wants to receive back. And what we get inside here is our intents, and the out of the box template comes with a get new fact intent, which we will just use. That's the core code of the Alexa. So as long as we modify what this intent, then without any code changes, this Alexa app will work. And what you get out of the box is, if you go into bulk edit here, you get about all the ways that somebody would use the app. It comes with a template of 10 or 12 examples. I just changed them to these 3, like motivate me, for example. And you submit it, and you save your model, and you're pretty much done. Then you get to come in here to the testing section. I'll show you this now. You go into the testing section, and once you do that, you just have to do one small thing, which is switch on. It comes as off. You switch it on to development. Then you should be able to do something like, say, motivate me, and without even installing, that's working. So that's really the live demo finished. And depending on how much time, I can go and explain a little more about what's going on here. But as you can see, this text is coming from that array in our serverless Lambda code. And what I type in here is the intent of the utterance of the user. And you can see the input that Alexa is sending to our Lambda here, and you can spend more time on that when you're playing around with it. And you can see the response. The only other thing I would like to say is, if we go back to the presentation, familiarize yourself with these terminologies like the interaction model, the intent, and the utterance. But it is really as simple as that. I think you'll agree with me. I mean, how quick was that to create? We skipped a little bit in the 5 minutes it takes for a Lambda to actually create, and the same with the Alexa. If I had more time, I would have actually waited all the way through and did it all from scratch. This is the app I built. There's a website and there's an actual Alexa app. The website's really good because it asks you to discuss, is it thoughts or feelings that you first got when you started to have them? And are you mainly thinking about it or feeling about it? And it's a really beautiful graphics that the women coders came up with. So I can send all those links after the talk. So I guess where to next? If I had time, I didn't have 4 children and a full-time job, I would like to connect it to storage for facts. I would like to store some information about the user and give them a profile. I'd like to use Dynamo instead of hard coding the facts, maybe play a motivational song if asked. This is just some of the resources that I used when learning about this. As I said, I hope you will get these slides so I don't have to go through them now. And I am no expert, but I do love the AI aspect, and I hope to become someday able to work in ML and AI as my main job. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Louise. That's a very interesting talk. And I love that you were able to do something that helps, the mental health, especially this pandemic. Everyone actually suffered very much, So it's interesting how an app can help alleviate, or help us in terms of mental health as well. So very, very interesting talk. There's a question actually for you. There are 4 open questions actually. Let me get through it. Okay. So from one of our attendees, how is Alexa / Echo's market share? Is building skills on Alexa profitable, or is it more towards open source, free, and personal?
So I think it's both. And anyone jump in if they have more information here, because I'm not an expert. I mean, think about it like a website. So any way to get, it's more about personal than business. I have seen that. So, but it's a way to, for example, make your core system available in another way. But there are obviously, as with everything with AWS, you will find that it's free up until a certain amount of traffic, and then you have to start paying. So ultimately, Alexa may not be your entire UI. You would obviously have other UIs as well. It's sort of looking after your customer experience, but you would also have the traditional UIs where you could potentially be charging for as well. But it's like everything else. I mean, it's just another way to open up your core system to users. And I think that I do see a lot of the applications on Alexa that are not non-traditional marketed products. They're just customer experience or user experience and well-being. So I think you're right, but there are ways to do it.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I think on the business side, probably it depends. If I may add, it really depends whether you want to, create an app that's profitable, but you actually wouldn't know whether your app's gonna hit unless you put it out in the market, right? And what you can do is you can actually keep on improving, depends on the user's feedback. So you can keep on like a minimum viable product, and then put it out in the market, let people test it, get feedback, and you can keep on improving. And then who knows, a person or a company might be able to, buy your app, or you can expand the services and the usage as well. But it's really important to put it out in the market, get feedback. So that's my suggestion for you guys. So there's another question for you. Would you know what are common use cases for Alexa for business? Would it be cool to command Alexa to build a cloud formation stack or to launch an EC2?
It would be cool. So from my own perspective, I have seen companies offer Alexa as a way to control their products. So for example, you spend a bit more on a special plug that is an Alexa-friendly plug. And so the companies are saying, if you plug your device into this thing for $50, you can then command that light to switch off. So that's an example of a business case for Alexa. So if you have a physical device that has a special plug, you can command it on Alexa. So I guess that's a business case. That's one of them. Another one is for a college that the students can say to Alexa, hey, what's my timetable today? Or what's on lunch today? So it's a way for colleges to say, hey, we have this AI part of our faculty. So it increases, I suppose, student well-being and things like that. So the sky is the limit. I mean, in terms of getting Alexa to plug into a Lambda that will build a stack, that would be interesting, because it's what you have to do is what I showed you today was almost a very simple one-way request from a user that receives back static data. You can definitely get Alexa to have a response like, would you like anything else? So in other words, what kind of stack would you like to build? If the code then allows you to take the input from the user, analyze it, do a fetch from a database of a list of potential stacks, and then send it back to the user and say, hey, we have 4 stacks. Which stack are you looking to build? And all that sort of stuff. So what you're saying here is there can be a very complex two-way communication with the user. And each one of those is a normal request, like anyone hitting from Postman to an API. And then you can just make your Lambda do whatever you want it to do. So think of it like the sky is the limit. You can reach out to other third-party APIs if you have all that information set up. It just takes a little bit of thinking outside the box, but it's all super customizable, and you can make it do whatever you want. Hope that answers.
But before we move to the next question, can we ask the other speakers to turn on their videos as well? Wendy and Ivy, please join us for the Q&A part. All right. Okay, there's Ivy. Hi, Ivy.
Hello, Chef.
All right. So there's another question here. I think this is more for Wendy. With the learnings and experience that you have in building the lake house for NSW, do you have tips for those who are new to building one, like best practices, or are there factors that you wish you could have considered or focus more on earlier during the build phase?
Yeah, so we're kind of like a startup in government, like Google. So don't be afraid to fail, but work on your first simple use case. And our first simple use case was we just want to get the cloud data warehouse to up and running in Redshift. So we know in the long term that we want to extract data from SharePoint, like Microsoft SharePoint, but just use simple like CSV files from Excel just to create a table in Redshift and get that running. And there's a lot of useful code in the guide as well. And there's sample data. So we experimented with sample data firstly, because we wanted to ensure that we could test that before putting our government data. And then when you use your real data, make sure that it doesn't include any customer information as well. But we had security sign off, probably 2 months or 3 months in advance before using Redshift. So do plan many months ahead, because if you're working in government, everything is much slower than consulting or enterprise as well. So we're still on our journey with Redshift. We've just created our first use case like last week, and we're still expanding the features. So yeah, don't be afraid to fail. And as mentioned, like build with one node. And if you need to increase with another node, that's also fine as well, because like later on, we'll need to share data with other data sources within our data lake. So with the new feature in federated queries in Redshift, you can have a look at the database blog. There's a lot of new features, so you can create like several S3 buckets, like with your pre-processed data and also raw data, and also set slices as well, and access other data sources later on, like audio data, etc.
Wow, very interesting. If you don't mind me asking, Wendy, did you have to clean the data before processing it? Because it's the most common error, right?
Yeah.
If you have junk, basically you'll be processing junk as well.
Yes.
You have to clean up the data first, or do you have to teach people on how to capture the right data in order for you to process the right?
Yeah, good question, Shell. So we're going to add another application like Glue, AWS Glue, to do the ETL for us. But at the moment, our data is really clean. We just want to ensure that we can get the like the call center agent names and all the staff information, because it's not customer data, making sure that we can create those tables. But then also, like, we have problems with formatting like dates. So we want to use Glue to do that for us and automate that in the longer term, and also have other call evaluation data, because calls are being monitored every week and every month. So it's just going to be huge data later on. We want to write a script to do the cleaning for us.
Right now, how big is the data that you guys are processing on a daily?
Monthly. So it's
monthly.
So it's in Excel spreadsheets, and so we're moving that into Redshift, and it's probably like 200 evaluations a month. And that's for like transport section. And then we also have like different agencies within government as well. So like we have like 200,000 calls each week. So you can imagine we need to take a sample of 200,000 calls, and needs to be monitored to ensure that we're providing excellent customer experience in government.
Wow, that's amazing. Very, very amazing. What made you decide to focus on public sector? You could have focused on a different, private.
It was COVID. Had to pivot. So I was working for an AI startup, as I mentioned, but then money ran out. So, we can't do those fancy projects. So now I'm in government. But yeah, I mean, still we get to work with fancy technology, and we get to work with the stakeholder, work alongside them, much slower pace as well, but then educate them and mentor them. But we're building in cloud really quickly, because like if you work for banks, they're not spending money on Tableau, they're not spending money on AWS. If you work in insurance, they don't believe in cloud, they think it's not secure. So everyone's got different perspectives. So yeah,
I totally agree with you. My last job, we were working on a lot of insurance industries, the local companies. And it took them a while to be convinced to go to the cloud. But once one company started shifting, and then the rest followed, basically. But really, really interesting on how you moved from startup mode to public sector, and you're making a huge impact, right? So very, very interesting talk. Let me go back to Ivy. You shared about learnings, you shared about challenges as an information architect. One or two best practices that you can share to our audience or to our participants tonight that they may use. So, in building or migrating to cloud. So what are at least one or two best practices that you can share?
As I've mentioned during the discussion, I think that you have to utilize what the services that are available in AWS. Unfortunately, the time that we plan the migration, we focuses on using the native tools, and we did not consider the services available in AWS. Maybe because there's no experts or there's no AWS partner that we can consult in terms of the best practices. And I've also mentioned that it depends on the timelines. If there's a short timeline, then better to use AWS services or AWS tools that can help you with the migration. if there's enough time, then you can explore other things like using the native tools in terms of the migration. And another thing is that I think you just you don't focus on just migrating the infrastructure like apple to apple approach. So it's not like that. It's also for you to improve the architecture, the existing architecture when you move to AWS. And also I recommend, as I mentioned, I recommend to talk with your AWS partner on what is the best practices, because they're more expert on that. For my project today, it also involves migration from the on-prem to AWS. And luckily, we have a partner from AWS which we can consult on in terms of the architecture. Yeah, so those are my piece of advice. Thank you.
We work closely or hand in hand with AWS and AWS partners to ensure that you actually build like a well-architected system, right?
And I think the difference between my first project and on my current job, I think that it's more complex, because what we need to the outcome or the result must be that the architecture must be flexible, because later on it's not that the on-prem cloud that will be integrated, but the integration also with the other clouds like Azure, like IBM Cloud. So we have to consider that also in terms of the solutioning.
Very, very interesting. Thanks, Ivy.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we have more questions. I think we have enough time. I hope Wendy and Louise and Ivy can still stay tuned and answer more questions. We have a very engaged set of participants right now. So from Ana Pedro, very interesting topics. I'd love to know, if you don't use AWS primarily at work, what would you suggest is the best way to build AWS skills in ML or serverless? Maybe we can go roundabout. Maybe we can go with Louise this time, and then Wendy and Ivy. Louise, if you're not working on AWS, what would you suggest to build skills, for example, like serverless, or how do you start basically?
So I guess so for example, for myself, I was not part of my day job of building ML. That was definitely something I got into out of a curiosity, and because I think that I have a natural interest in technology, and I don't want to spend all my time just working in tech. I want to actually have fun in tech. So for me, I would suggest that like playing around with the console, create an account. You do have to give a credit card. However, they don't charge you a thing, and you can set up a budget from day one to say, if it goes over $5 a month, ping me and I'll examine why is it going up. Everything is free. So it is the most incredible place to start if you don't use it in work. I don't use any of my personal stuff, logins in work. I log in as a work colleague into we do use AWS every day. We have 80 projects, and each one probably has a couple of lambdas. So we have 400 lambdas, and God knows, DynamoDB, Elasticsearch, S3. This is my day job. But for myself, I just created a little Louise login, and gave a credit card. And all of a sudden I had the same access. All the console is there, and I could create things and play around. I would say that there are some cheap courses you can do. For me, I did get a scholarship for a cloud guru, and it just put me into the situation where I had access to this amazing portfolio of courses, and I got certified initially as the developer associate, and that touched on Alexa and gave me some confidence. That was probably the key moment for me, where as part of the course I had to create an Alexa app. So that's just some ideas. Yeah.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like to have a follow-up question with that. So you mentioned, you don't just want to work in tech, but you want to have fun too. So how do you juggle being a mom, having a day job, and working on your passion projects?
So I decided to just get up a little bit early. And I call it like my power hour before my kids wake up. And I do my 20 minutes of a run. I do my 20 minutes of writing. What's my plan today? What am I excited about? And not just work, but fun as well. And then I do 20 to 30 minutes of technology, just whatever I want to do. And that alone gives me a feeling of the whole day, that it's in the back of my mind. And if I want to take 10 minutes away from work, I'll play around again. Sometimes in the evening, I might do a little bit more, but it's called my power hour. And I think it's really changed everything for me. And sometimes I'll do the same at the weekend. I'll get up a little bit early, have my little hour, and then it can lead it into a little bit longer, but it's still, kids are still in their PJs when I'm finished. So those little, that's my only way, because I don't get time during the day. The evenings I'm driving kids around the place. So 4 boys to soccer, rowing, everything. So that's it. That's how what I have to do. I said, this certification isn't going to happen on its own. I've got to go and get up that bit early.
And that's one way of beating imposter syndrome, right?
Absolutely. It really did help, actually. Yes. And I would like to ask everyone at some point about their experience of imposter syndrome when we have time, if that's okay, just before we sign off.
We can do that, definitely. And I can share some as well. So we have more questions. So can Alexa run offline? We went through you, so we're gonna ask Wendy, sorry, and Louise. Pardon me. So Wendy, maybe you can share. If you're not using AWS primarily at work, how would you build AWS skills in ML or in AI?
Yeah, so for me, I think the most important thing is to join a community, because like women, sometimes with imposter syndrome, so join a community of women as well, just to support you along your learning journey. So for me, I've joined like She Builds, which is part of the AWS certification program. So I'm on the journey to complete the cloud practitioner certification. So just, it's a really great community. We're on Slack as well. So highly encourage you to do so. And also join some of the AWS user groups as well, like a meetup as well, to give you that extra support, and also be actively engaged in some of the summits as well. So we've just had AWS Awesome Day. So you get like short bites of information on technology in ML, if that's what you're interested in, or in data or cloud migration, any service. And that will give you like a good revision of the cloud practitioner exam as well. And then also, for me, being a nerd, I'm really interested in, like I have some recordings on my mobile phone. So I wanted to use Transcribe to download that recording and put it in Amazon Transcribe and check the accuracy of that transcription. And there's free tutorials on the Amazon website, which you can use once you create an account in the management console. And they use a lot of Amazon Transcribe for medical transcription. So if you have a recording on your phone, you can just download the MP3 and see how accurate does Amazon Transcribe API translate all of those words. And sorry to say, like some of it is not accurate because it's based on a programmer. So it's just really interesting exercise for me. And then once you just be creative and be curious and to keep on learning and doing something fun, like Louise mentioned, something that you're interested in. And that's the way to build
your skills and eventually get into apps.
Yeah. And I think
have a job that basically pays you to do what you love, right?
Exactly. And then have another job to really, and then like Louise mentioned, have that power hour. So for me, I do my learning on the weekend or wake up extra early as well. And sometimes, you're coding something and you want to debug some code and you figure out it's 2 a.m. in the morning, like, be passionate, keep on learning, and but have a community of women with you. So for me, like running like Women in Data Science conferences or the meetups like Women in Big Data, have that supportive network as well and ask questions. Don't be afraid.
True. And that's basically the whole purpose why we started AWS BuildHers Plus, so that, if you're just starting out or if you have experience already and you want to upskill or you want to level up, or simply you want to give back by mentoring other people, that's why we started the community. And thank you to you guys for speaking tonight. But we have more questions. So I'll jump into Ivy this time. Ivy, if you're not using AWS at work, how can you build up like migration skills or DevOps, things like that?
Yeah. I think that the exposure to the infra from since the day one when I started my career in IT it helps me a lot to understand the technology. So from the traditional to the virtualization using the VMware technology, I think that helps me a lot to understand the new technologies about the cloud platform. So I believe in the certification. It's a good thing that you have, but I think that the experience will really help you in the actual work. That's actually my principle, and same thing as Louise and Wendy. Um, I think that it will also help you a lot if you're making learning the new technologies a passion, or making it like it's not a work, because I just realized that I just realized that recently, actually, because whenever new technologies will introduce to us, I take it as like it's a work, but later, sooner or later, you will realize that it helps you, excites more in terms of working in the real environment, and it's like extending or putting an extra mile for you to not just to deliver, but to deliver beyond the expectation. That's how I see it. And for you to like start learning the technology, I think that you have to take an initiative to make use of what is like in AWS. I think that there are some free tiers that you can make use of. It's an opportunity for you to learn the technology. And aside from that, you can make use of other tools like Oracle VM VirtualBox. And then you can also, it will help you actually to understand also the server virtualization. It's more of actually initiatives and being resourceful, because if you don't have that kind of behavior attitude, you cannot learn the you can learn that you will learn the technology in a hard way. So it's more of putting an initiatives to learn the technology, especially in the IT industry. It's not actually, it keeps on changing. The technology and the solutions keeps on changing. So for you to catch up with the technology, you have to keep on learning. That's how Wendy mentioned earlier, that you have to keep on learning. It's not because that you're already working in the IT industry. That means that you already know, or you're already the expert. No, it is not that way. Like for me, even if I'm already working more than 10 years, I still keep on updating myself when it comes to technology and solutions available in the market. And also, it's also, I think it's also uh, a time for you also, or an opportunity for you also to share it with your IT friends, or IT, like on this group. Share your knowledge to them as well. Share the experience on what really happens in the actual environment. We know that in the books or in the web page, these are the theories, but in the actual environment, this is really what happens. It is not necessary that this should be implemented this way. Sometimes it is not happening. So in the actual environment, there are some tweaks in terms of what is really being implemented in there. So yeah, just those are the those are the things that I've learned.
Great advice, Ivy. So one cannot be complacent with the skills that they have. So, everyone has to learn and, update their skills. There's always a new technology every week, right? So at the same time, you have to put in practice what you learned in order for you to understand and to avoid the pitfalls. That's basically what you're saying. So please stay tuned. We have at least 2 to 3 more questions. Let me ask Louise again. Can Alexa run offline or temporarily offline and sync data when it goes online? Based on your experience, Louise?
No, it needs an internet connection. Right? So
All
it does nothing unless it's connected to the internet. However, it can, you can use it as a Bluetooth device, as in the Echo. You can say, play music to my Alexa speaker. Even if it doesn't have internet, you can use Bluetooth on it. So think of Alexa as like it's obviously a speaker in a room, the Echo Dot part. But the Alexa itself, it does nothing unless it's connected to the cloud, connected to the internet. There's no like offline mode. No. Right.
Or there's no technology that you can plug in or use right now to complement it, like to do it offline, basically.
Not
Not
if
as
it doesn't have an internet, radio silence. It's like, I'm sorry, I'm having a problem connecting. So the way to use, I hear what you're saying. It's like, can you plug Alexa into something else?
Mhm.
It's only going to work with your phone or your Echo Dot. So you can use your Alexa app on your phone, but you still need to be able to reach the Alexa sitting in the Amazon cloudness. And with your phone, you can actually drop into your children's bedrooms. You can make an announcement to say, everybody up out of bed, it's 10 o'clock, whatever. But you can do a lot from your Alexa app on your phone. It's really helpful. You can even test your app from your phone. It doesn't have to go live, because I didn't go into everything on that portal. You don't have to put it live. You can just leave it in beta mode and test it on your phone like a real app. Once it's created in your login, and your Alexa app on your phone is in your login. But there's lots of fun things you can do, but you have to have internet. Yeah.
Probably it will be a bit challenging, because there are some areas here in the Philippines that are still not yet, I mean, the stable of the internet is not yet pretty much good. So let me move to the next question. Thanks for that, Louise. How can you build data warehouses if you don't have big data yet, or just starting? Any advice, Wendy?
LinkedIn courses, lots of LinkedIn courses, LinkedIn learning, or even some learning in your office as well. Like, you'd have programs as well, and speak to people a bit. Yeah, do a few online courses before you get to work with a real data warehouse. And also, when you do have opportunity to work with the data warehouse team at work, raise your hand for those opportunities, I think.
And I think there are actually open and public data sets that are available, right? That they can actually use.
Google Data Search, Amazon, AWS Data Exchange. You can look for free public data sets and use that for sample test cases for things that you're building as well.
Thank you.
Google Data Search. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably should say Amazon Data Exchange.
But you can actually search for publicly available data sets, or as Wendy mentioned, you can actually check the available courses so that you can actually test it, try it out. There's one final question, but if there's anyone who wants to ask more questions, please do so. So how can I convince the traditional owners to move to AWS, especially here in non-NCR or National Capital Region, where internet isn't always very stable? Would it be more costly on-premise versus getting multi-internet provider? I think it would be more appropriate for Ivy, since Wendy and Louise doesn't have experience being here in the Philippines. Or maybe if you have experience where internet is not stable, maybe you can share also. Ivy, maybe you can. Would you like
actually, there are a lot of ways. There are a lot of ways for a company, like if they're I'm not sure. How will be the environment, but if the concern is how will the users will connect to the AWS through their services, I think that there are a lot of options that can be used in terms of that connectivity. So there are some connections like using the direct connect, which is, I think it is much more stable rather than using like VPNs. And I think that that can be a consideration in terms of building the connectivity between the end users and connecting to the services under AWS Cloud. So I think it depends on there are options, as I've mentioned. There are options that that can help to stabilize the connections of the end users and the services under AWS Cloud. And that might be explored by the user. Yeah.
Thanks, Ivy. All right, last question for everyone. Do you have tips on how to easily establish personal branding or image in the tech world, especially for newbies in tech? So maybe we can go with Wendy this time, and then Louise, and then Ivy.
Just, say yes to opportunities, to speak to Build community, try to help people out, try to mentor, volunteer. So I volunteer for anything. So I have a wide variety of interests outside of tech. Like I enjoy, it's like I studied journalism before I moved to finance, and then now tech. It wasn't my choosing, it's just the economy. So yeah, always network with people, try to help people out. And I have a passion for women in tech. So, work with what you're passionate about. So if you really enjoy helping people build something like mentoring data science or analytics, build your network. And then also, just because when you build your network and then you also build your confidence as well, and you're part of like a community in a meetup, you don't know what opportunities will present, because like when you happen to like mentor for datathons as well and join conferences as well. So like, Women in Data Science conference, or there could be one for like technology, whatever it is, join them and learn, keep on growing.
If you're the shy type, how do you break that?
Oh, I think everyone is shy. So I think when I first started volunteering, just don't worry. Don't worry what other people think. It's just you, just try to build and become better each day. And, don't be hard on yourself, and just try to, what I want to do to grow and push myself out of the comfort zone. Because, when you work with data is so ambiguous, it's so dirty that you always need to push yourself to find a solution or ask people, collaborate with people. And tech is all about collaborating. You can't work and solve problems on your own. Don't worry if you're the only girl on the team. Don't worry if no one's done it ever before. Put your hand up and do it. Pioneer, do something, make your life richer. Do something that, that you don't want to regret doing. So at the end of my degree, I actually wanted to do something for women in data science in Sydney. So I said, I want to partner with Stanford University. So put yourself out there, because you only have, one life, and just, see what you can do to make a difference in your community.
Very, very, very interesting advice, Wendy. Thank you so much. Louise, maybe you can share also a few tips.
A lot of the same things as Wendy said. The only thing I would add to that is Twitter is great. Code Newbie, follow them. You meet people there. Moms Can Code, they run a hackathon, and I met some friends there, and we're still technologically friends, and we have our Slack channel. I came in on that as a more experienced developer and helped all these ladies over a couple of weeks build an app together. Throw yourself in the deep end, get somebody who's never seen CSS and show them what it is and how to. There's always a place for somebody on the team to get in somehow into tech. But like hackathons, absolutely. WomenWhoCode, Women in Tech. Offered now that we're remote, go and join Nerd Summit. It's for newbies to present. Start off with sort of a small group of people and present, and you gradually build up. Find your niche, like something will jump out at you that you're like, oh my God, I'm excited about this. For me, the Alexa, whatever, the mental health aspect, and see where it goes. Just throw yourself in there and say, this is my first time. Thank you for letting me practice on you guys. I'm sorry if I get flummoxed, bear with me, and all that stuff. And people are so kind then to tell people, and the best way to become better and to get over the challenge of nerves is to do it. There's no other way. And you know what? Listen to podcasts when you're doing your driving, when you're doing your shopping. The technology podcasts by women are fantastic now. There's a ton of them. And finally, maybe make a podcast just for fun, and like what I did. And you'll be surprised at the enjoyment you get out of doing it, never mind the feedback. Yeah.
Louise, if you don't mind, I'll make a follow-up question. For sure, you know, being a mom of four, you said you've been in and out of tech, right? So you had to pause for a while after, say, giving birth to raising another child and things like that. So how do you jumpstart again your career or your interests, or going back to the workforce, basically, for those who stop for a while and focus on their families?
It's really called a returnship nowadays, and because there's such a gap in the market and you can work for any company anywhere in the globe from anywhere, you know, you just have to upskill. And whether that's a boot camp or whether there's a lot of boot camps out there now that don't charge you until you get your first job. Also, and they're serious and they're good and they're linked to colleges. And okay, it might cost you a little percentage of a year's salary, as in manageable, but you know, investigate these options. That was really helpful for me. The other option is self-learning is great nowadays. People don't need you to have a degree anymore to do technology. Build your portfolio on GitHub is the #1 thing that helped me. I could show them all of the hangman game that I made one day, and another week I spent weeks doing graphs and just learning without any third party how to build a graph with raw data, and just played around with it to learn Angular and React and all these front-end components. They basically, that was a really good discussion for my interview to get back into tech after many years. As a self-employee building websites, I didn't want to use any of that to get my new job. And I had taken a few years off too when I relocated, while I was training and concentrating and learning and investing in that time. So your GitHub portfolio is a good one to start if you're coming in for the first time.
Very, very good advice, both for moms who are returning to the workforce, and at the same time, if you're, you know, fresh grad, you're learning and you don't have a portfolio yet. So very, very interesting advice. Thank you, Louise. Ivy, last but not the least.
maybe I can share with you my career background. So if you're like a fresh grad and you want to start your career and expose yourself in some kind of several technologies, I think that it's best if you can start with like operations, being an IT operator, because as an operator, it's level 1. Though it's level 1, you are exposing yourself to different technologies and different applications and systems. So that's how I started. I have the experience of managing the traditional, and then on the virtualizations, and how I went to where I am today. That's being solutions architect. Actually, I've learned it the hard way. So before I realized that I want to pursue my career as a solutions architect, because being an IT operator, it's like you're handling so many multiple roles. It's like jack of all trades. So you don't know if what really is the role for you. So that's why I think that's the reason why I've learned the hard way, and it took me like several years before I decided to become a solutions architect. I think that the keyword that addresses my personal issue is, I think, self-reflection. So I self-reflected. I put what are my skills, what are my strengths, and I think that whenever I do some solutioning, whenever I do some designs, or whenever I become involved in some projects that deals with the solutions or design phase, I think that it excites me usually. So that's how I realized that I think that that my career, that I will go for solutions architect profession. So that's what I'm doing. Though it's a very challenging role, because I think most of your clients or even your team, they depend on the solution, and sometimes they challenge the solutions that you make. And but still, if it's your passion, or if that challenge you in a positive way, I think that you can surpass that that kind of fear or that kind of challenge.
Thank you, Ivy. Very, very interesting advice also. So to wrap up our, 2 hours has flown by so fast. I wanted to ask more questions, and I'm sure our audience, but we don't have time. But we would like to thank Ivy, Louise, and Wendy. Wendy for staying up late. You're a few hours ahead of us, and Louise for staying up, for waking up early, so that you can join us as well. So thank you very much. And Ivy, thank you. After a long day at work, you still stayed and shared as well. So I hope everyone learned a lot today. And before we go, so I'd like to ask my co-organizer, JC, maybe you can share your screen, JC, so that we can use the wheel of names for a raffle. There you go. All right, for our first prize, which is an AWS UG BuildHers mug. All right, click it, JC. I wonder who will win. Wow, Francis Ong, congratulations. Thank you for being an ally and a supporter of AWS UG BuildHers Plus. You won a mug. And for our grand prize tonight, which is an AWS UG BuildHers Plus t-shirt. Come on, JC. I'm doing the manual background music. So we have Dream Santos. Dream, congratulations. If you're still in the call, raise your hand. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Louise, Wendy, and Ivy, you are all awesome speakers. Thank you for imparting your knowledge and your expertise. Thank you, thank you. Really.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Thank you for having us.
Everyone.
If anyone wants to stay in touch with you, how can they, how can they reach out? Or if they have more questions, can they reach out to you via LinkedIn, or is there a group in Slack or in AWS community where they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'll be sending my personal email address. If you have any questions on how you can start learning AWS, or even how you some activities that you need to consider in terms of the migration of to AWS, then you can email me or send me a message.
And you'll be mentoring also, right? In our coffee sessions sometime this November, given if you have free schedule.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Thank you, Ivy. Wendy, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Sorry, LinkedIn or Twitter. Yep.
All right. What's your Twitter handle, by the way?
Oh, I just put it in the chat. So at ABC_wins.
All right. Oh, there you go. Thank you, Wendy. Louise?
Same as Wendy. Twitter, DM me, and then I can give you more info on how to contact me. Yeah, that's probably the best.
Thank you, everyone. And last plug before we end tonight's meetup. We'll be having a mentoring and review sessions for those who are interested to actually take the Cloud Practitioner certification. All you need to do is register at meetup.com. So that's all Sundays of November from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. So we're looking forward to see you there. Thanks, everyone. Thank you
So much. Have a good night from Sydney.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle.
Or maybe we can do one more, like a group picture before we end tonight.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Thanks, everyone.
Good night.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.